Good evening. I'd like to welcome you to the Tuolumne County Planning Commission of October 4th. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So I'd like to remind everyone, if you need an extra agenda or would like to see what we're going to be doing tonight, there are some extra ones on the back. And one other notice, when you do come up to the podium, you do not have to state your name unless you would like to. With that, we'll move on to the reports from commissioners. Reports from commissioners. No? How about reports from staff?
Quincy Yaley, Assistant Director at the Community Resources Agency. Just wanted to let you know, while CRA is very busy, we don't have any items for your second meeting this month in October, so we will be canceling that meeting, but plan to meet in November. Thank you.
Thank you. So now a report from the Board of Supervisors Planning Committee, but that is Dick, correct? So
No, that is me, but there was no meeting, so there is no report.
All right, thank you. And now the report from the Agriculture Advisory Committee is Dick. So that's
And he's gone.
he's not here. So then we'll move on to the minutes of the meeting of August 2nd, 2017. Did anyone have any notes? Any comments? Okay, did we want to make a motion?
So moved.
I think you can't vote on it. You
Oh,
were
that's
not
right.
there. Yeah.
That's right, you're
Okay.
right.
I'll second.
Perfect. All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Okay, with that, I will close the commission business and move on to public comment. You can speak on anything that is not on the agenda, and with that, I'll open that up. Okay, I will now close public comment. Now we'll move on to the actual agenda items. We'll start with the Denison, and we'll move it over to staff.
Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Dan Van Essen. I'm a planner for the Community Resources Agency. And for this first project today, I'm going to be presenting Rezone RZ 17-005 for the applicants Denny and Jeanne Dennison. They are also the owners. For every project we work on in Tuolumne County, we always try to keep the vision, mission, and value statements in mind. I'm not going to go through these, but if anyone has any questions, I can go back to these. For the project description, ordinance for zone change RZ 17-005 to rezone a 17.28 acre parcel into two different parcels. It's going to go from A10 to a 7.55 acre portion of RE5 and a 10 acre portion of A20. And I'll explain that a little more when we get into the exhibit map. The project's located on US Forest Route 2 South 08 Hells Hollow Road, approximately 585 feet southeast of intersection US Forest Route 2 South 09Y and South Ponderosa Way. Located in the community of Coulterville, assessor parcel number 066-450-011 and 066-450-012. Supervisor District 4. The general plan on the project site is RR, which stands for Rural Residential. It's the project site here. As you can see, it's surrounded by primarily agriculture and residential estate properties. On June 29th, 2017, the property owners submitted an application for exhibit map T17-012 to the surveyor's office. The map proposed a re-subdivision of two parcels. Parcel 1, 30.26 acres, and Parcel 2, 17.64 acres. The resulting adjustment would create Parcel 1, 40.34 acres, and Parcel 2, 7.55 acres. So as you can see here, basically they're going to remove the lot line on this portion of the property. basically making a perfect square and making this parcel a little smaller here. Because of that, they had to go through a zone change to, one, make this portion of A10 consistent with the A20 zoning on this larger parcel, and this other portion of the parcel was still zoned A10. It's only going to be 7 acres, so they had to rezone it to RE5 to allow that exhibit map to go through. Owners within 1,000 feet of the project site were notified of the project. This encompassed 6 neighbors, and no responses were received. The decision process, the planning commissioners may either approve the project with the conditions we provided, approve the project with modifications, or deny the project. Please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.
Commissioners, do we have any questions for staff before we move on? No? Okay. With that, we will open it up to public comment on this agenda item. We'll start with those who are in favor, and then we can move on to those who are opposed, and then finally those who want to speak neutrally, and we can have other things if we move on past that. But first, we'll open it up to those who want to speak in favor.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Ruben Churnside from Land and Structure. We're the surveyors on this project, and the applicants are here also. Thanks to staff for putting that introduction together. This is a fairly simple rezone associated with a lot line adjustment so that the owners can reconfigure the parcels in the way that they would like. And we'd just like to speak in favor of this project. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer any at this point.
Peter?
The surveyor in me has to ask, it looks like you just made it back into a quarter section. Is that close to true?
Close to true. It really is just associated with how they would like to have the lot lines associated with the improvements that they have on the properties.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Ruben?
No?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Denny Dennison. I'm in favor of this project. Basically, what we've got is about 80 acres, and half of it, the lower 40 acres, is too steep for me to climb with my machine, my Bobcat that I use to take care of the trees and the brush. And we want to be able to sell the lower 40 acres and keep the rest. So that's what we're trying to do. We just want to separate it out so that we can maintain what we have and sell the rest to somebody else.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you. Any others who would like to speak in favor? Okay. Any that want to speak in opposition of the project? Okay. And any who would like to speak neutrally on this project? All right. With that, I will move on to discussion with us. Commissioners, any comments, questions, any motions?
I would move approval based on findings A through D.
Okay. In a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Okay, now we're going to trick you guys, and we're actually going to move to the third project because it looks like we do have an infant in the audience, and we're going to try to get them out first. So we're going to move on to
Are you talking about me again?
Yes. So we're going to move on to the Williamson Act, which is the third agenda item.
Oh, dear.
Throwing
I
a
know.
curveball at us here.
I know.
What is this?
Where are you in our? There they are.
What's the name?
You sure it's the
Harrison.
third one?
Yeah.
Harrison, got it.
It's after
Thank
the
you.
blue piece of paper.
Yeah.
Oh,
I only got a yellow piece of paper.
We'll wait for everyone to get settled, and we'll move on to staff.
I'm still hunting.
where's the other good piece of paper? All right. we
All
got
the
it,
way
we
at
got
the
it.
end. Thank you.
So you tried to color code it and we still couldn't.
That's all right.
Ah,
The project before you
Harrison.
tonight is the Harrison project. It's Agricultural Preserve AP 16-004, zone change RZ 16-001, and Williams Knot contract WA 16007. We have the vision, mission, and values of Tuolumne County, which we always keep in mind when we are processing applications at the Community Resources Agency. The project description tonight is to enlarge Agricultural Preserve 22 with, by adding 10 acres. Ordinance for zone change RZ 16-001 to rezone a 172.7 acre site from A10, which is general agricultural 10 acre minimum, to AE 37, exclusive agricultural 37 acre minimum. Rezone it to AE 37 AP, exclusive agricultural 37 acre minimum with an agricultural preserve combining district. Also, application for Williams Snack contract WA 16-007 to enter into a new land conservation contract pursuant to Tuolumne County Resolution 10604, including the approval of an agricultural management plan. The property is located at 14750, 14790, and 14800 Booker Road, near the intersection of Wards Ferry Road and Booker Road, and the current zoning is A10 as well as AE 37. The general plan is RR, rural residential, and agricultural. Here's a picture of the project site. It's outlined in black and contains 3 assessor's parcel numbers. The parcels colored green are designated agricultural, and the dark brown color is residential and ag use, rural residential. The state's Williams Snack contract program began in 1965 to help farmers preserve agricultural land. In exchange for entering into a 10-year contract, the property owner receives a tax reduction on the property. The contract remains on the property until a notice of non-renewal is filed. And at that point, after a 10-year period, it can come out of the Williams Snack. Resolution 10604 is used by Tuolumne County to enforce the state's Williams Snack program. Rule 4A1C states that any commercial agricultural operation must be existing at the time of a new contract. The minimal parcel size for dryland grazing is 160 acres, and the combination of the 3 parcels for this project totals 172.7 acres, which meets the minimum parcel size requirement. The Williams Snack Land Conservation Program requires that all property enter into a land conservation contract, also be in an ag preserve, and the minimum size for an ag preserve is 100 acres. The property owner's request for a new contract requires us to alter the existing ag preserve, which is Ag Preserve 22, to add the additional 10 acres into it. And at the conclusion of this, Ag Preserve 22 will be 123.4 acres in size. And you can see here the gray is Ag Preserve 22, the hashed area in the top left is the 10-acre parcel, which will be included in the new Williams Snack contract and Ag Preserve. A part of this project is the zone change, which is required to bring the agricultural preserve combining district onto the entire project site. On June 15th, this summer, the project was considered by the Agricultural Advisory Committee, and it would unanimously recommended approval of the project before you tonight. After considering the project, the Planning Commission can recommend approval of the project, with modifications or new conditions, recommend denial of the project, or send the project back to staff. Ultimately, the project will go to the Board of Supervisors for final approval. I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Could you explain the farm labor housing piece of this?
Sure. So when a property owner wants, who is under a Williams Snack contract, wants to put a new additional residences on the property, they typically are tied to farm labor housing. It could be a member of the family or another employee of the property owner to who's going to live on the property and help manage that. And when people come in to request that, because the Williams Snack does limit the number of single-family residences that can be on a project site, if someone needs more homes than is allowed under the Williams Snack, they come in as farm labor housing, and that's a part of their management plan, which is included in the overall consideration of this project.
So is this adding another dwelling?
There is a proposal to add another dwelling to the project site.
When I think of farm labor, I think of little shanties. This is not going to be a little shanty.
No,
Okay. All right. But that's part of what we're approving.
that's part of the management plan for the
It's an
contract.
all or nothing kind of deal, I take it.
Right, and so their management plans not only outline the agricultural use on the project site, it also outlines any single-family residences or other exterior structures. The Department of Conservation, the State Department of Conservation regulates Williamson Act properties very tightly, and the county, through our participation in the project, requires that a property owner very detailed describe the operation and the structures on the site, so we can make sure it's in compliance with our program.
Thank you.
Sort of following up on that, we approve the management plan, then basically that farm housing is included in that.
That's correct. In the management plan, there's a list of existing and proposed structures, and
Got
that is,
So it's all
it's
wrapped
all
into
in the
that.
management plan, correct?
The other thing I noted in here is it says that we're not required to state an opinion on the Williamson Act, but we can recommend to the board if we wish.
That's,
I didn't hear you mention that, so I'm just trying to clarify.
yep,
that
that's
our
correct. Projects that come into CRA that are for a Williamson Act contract that already have the correct ag preserve, that already have the correct zoning, we don't typically bring to the Planning Commission because it's just a final board action. But because this project requires a zone change, we
Okay.
need a recommendation to bring it through you to the board.
So we could state an opinion on the Williamson Act, or we could just be silent either way.
Either way.
Got it, thank you.
Any other questions for staff? No. Okay, with that, I'll move on to public comment. Again, we'll do those who are in favor, those who are opposed, and those who would like to speak neutrally. We'll start with those who would like to speak in favor of the project.
How you doing? My name is Matt Harrison. My wife and I are the property owners. I just thought I'd come up here. If you guys have any questions for me, I'd be more than happy to answer them for you right now.
Well, thank you.
Okay,
Pretty
thank you very much.
straightforward.
His crime won't affect our decision either, just so you know. Those who would like to speak more in favor, first of all? Yeah. All right, and then we'll go on to those who would like to speak in opposition. All right, seeing none, I will ask those who would like to speak neutrally on this project.
Yes, good evening. My name is Sandy Fairgrieve. I'm one of the neighbors. So, yeah, I'm neutral in that I really don't know what's going on. I was out of the country for a while, and I don't know if there's been a lot of other paperwork on this. So I really wanted to get an idea. Is the use of the land here going to be changing, or is it just going to be the same old thing that's been going on for the last, 5 or 10 years? And then I'm also hearing, there's new dwellings going up, so I wondered if we knew how many dwellings, and do we have a map of where those dwellings are going up? And what
Is
size
that the-
those dwellings are, et cetera.
Is that the management plan? Does that mean that we already know the dwellings that are going to be placed out there, or does that have to come back through the planning commission and the board?
Building permit.
Right, so yeah, if they build another dwelling, they will have to come back again, correct?
So the management plan is asking for an additional farm labor housing, and on page 4 of the agenda report, it stars APN 96120001. Dan, do you mind putting the map back up there for me? And that's the parcel that the 01, so it's in the top left-hand corner nearest to Booker
Oh, I
Road.
see. Yeah.
So that's where the
Nice.
additional residence in the future will be
Okay.
constructed, and it wouldn't come back before your commission or the Board of Supervisors, but it would require a building permit. In terms of the use, there's no change in their management plan from their existing agricultural operations out on the project site. It's more to bring everything into the Williamson Act, bring everything into the Ag Preserve. They have to come back through the process in order to do that.
Does that answer your question, sir?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it sounds like you're mainly doing this for bookkeeping or tax reasons or something like that. I mean, I don't need to get into the details of your taxes, but
Yes.
maybe this helps you along.
I'd be more than willing to answer any questions you have.
You want him to come up?
Sure, we will. We'll let you come on up and answer some questions.
You gotta come
Yep.
up here, though.
But we'll switch seats. Thank you.
It just helps everybody in
Yeah.
there.
Just to answer any questions that you have, everything will remain status quo. There's no new structures that will be going up. So what you see now, I'm not sure where your property is located. Which road do you live off of? Okay.
No, I mean, I'm here as a neutral party. It's just I'm
Okay.
wanted a little more information.
No, we're just, all those parcels were formerly in the Williamson Act, and when we purchased them, they were on their way out, so we could not kind of tag along and keep them in the Williamson Act.
Yeah.
So essentially, what we're trying to do is bring them back into the Williamson Act and preserve that land, so, there's not a subdivision going in there.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Pretty innocuous. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anyone else who would like to speak neutrally? Since there was no speaking in opposition, we'll move right on to now questions, comments for the commissioners, for the staff. Any questions? Any motions?
Already been answered. Asked and answered.
Someone want to make a motion?
Yes,
Sure.
certainly.
Okay. There's a lot.
There's a lot. Would you like it in single motions? No,
You
perhaps.
can just,
Can I couple it all together?
you can even just make a motion to approve
Okay.
staff recommendation, which is
I-
on pages 2 and 3 of your report.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
I like that.
I move we.
Oh, hold on. Sorry. Peter has
I have one question. On item 5, it says it's recommended that your board determine the proposed, I assume that's the language that'll go in front of the Board of Supervisors?
That's correct.
Do we need to change that? I know it's a semantic, but I'm just wondering.
You could say commission.
That was kind of what I thought. I don't want to speak for the board.
Shall we go forward?
Yes.
Yes. I move we approve the agricultural alteration AP 16-004 based on findings A, B, C, and D. I also move that we approve the zone change RZ 16-011 based on findings A through E. And that we approve executing a land conservation contract, WA 16-007, under Resolution 16-04, based on findings A through D.
I think, say the resolution one more time. 106.
Yes,
Very little change.
thank you.
16. I don't know if it matters too much, but it is resolution 106.
Oh, I have just 16.
Oh, well, there you go.
I do.
No, on this one right here.
Oh, yes, oh, thank you. And finally, that we approve the management plan based on findings A through E.
And 5.
And finally, are you tired yet? That we approve farm labor housing under the Williamson Act pursuant to Rule 8B in parentheses of Resolution 106-04, based on findings A through F.
Good job.
I'm
A
sure
second.
glad- I'm sure glad she did that. I have no idea.
Do we have
I'll
a second?
second.
All right. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And so moved. Perfect timing.
Question, Mr. Chair. Do we
Yes.
want to have a recommendation to the board on the Williamson Act?
Okay.
No.
I don't know that we care.
Yeah, I don't think.
That's
I
the
find
board's
nothing.
prerogative. so-
Yeah. So we'll move on.
Okay.
Moving on.
Good question, though.
Rhetorical.
All right, now we'll go backwards.
Yes.
Not
And
connectivity, so.
we'll go back.
So this is.
You're welcome, anytime.
Now we're on the second agenda item that we originally had on the proposed tower for the communications. And we'll wait for everyone to get ready. We all set?
Yeah.
Okay, staff.
Got it.
Thank you. Oh, yeah, we'll let them get on it. Thank you. Yes, good luck.
Conditional use permit CUP 17-005. The applicants for the project are AT&T and Epic Wireless, and the owners are Elizabeth and Bruce Bedreau. For the project description, conditional use permit CUP 17-005 to allow the construction of a 105-foot tall wireless telecommunications tower, equipment shelter, and relative equipment within a 45-foot by 40-foot fence compound on assessor parcel number 58-540-004. The project is on a 45.34 acre parcel zoned RE5, residential state, 5 acre minimum, and A10, general agriculture, 10 acre minimum, under Title 17 of the Tuolumne County Ordinance Code. The project's located at 8555 Dante Drive, which is approximately 3,050 feet west of the intersection of French Flat Road and Rawhide Road in Supervisor District 5. The general plan designation is rural residential. This is our map of the project site. As you can see, it's southwest of French Flat Road, and primarily around the area is agricultural zoning with some larger residential estate zoning as well. For the design of the tower's 105 feet tall with up to 12 antennas, 19 remote radio units, and 1 outdoor equipment cabinet. The tower could potentially accommodate up to 3 wireless carriers. And as you can see, it's not designed as a stealth tower, but is located in an area with a significant number of pines, which could help conceal the tower. Epic Wireless provided the visual simulation looking south on French Flat Road. Adjoiner notices were sent to neighbors within 1,000 feet of the site. 18 neighbors were sent notices. We received 3 responses, 2 in opposition and 1 in favor of the project. The first concern was regarding health and safety. Section 17.530.050 of the Tuolumne County Ordinance Code requires that we receive verification that the tower complies with the radio frequency radiation exposure limits of the Federal Communications Commission, also known as the FCC, and a radio frequency emissions compliance report was prepared by Waterford Consultants for the proposed tower. The report states that the proposed site will be compliant with the radio frequency radiation exposure limits set forth by the FCC. The second concern was regarding property value. Section 15064E of the California Environmental Quality Act states that economic and social changes resulting from a project shall not be treated as significant effects to the environment. Concerns expressed over the potential devaluation of property value are considered social and economic impact and are not addressed by the CRA. The third concern was regarding land use. The project's located on a site zoned RE5 and A10, and pursuant to Section 1753.040 of the Tuolumne County Ordinance Code, wireless facilities are conditional uses, both on RE5 and A10 zone properties, so they're fulfilling that through applying through the conditional use permit. The fourth concern was regarding aesthetics. The proposed tower is not proposed as a stealth facility, but will be required to be painted earth tones in the conditioning and has a significant amount of foliage on the site. For the decision process, the Planning Commission may either approve the project with conditions, approve the project with modifications, or deny the project. Please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.
Any questions, first of all? Do you have a printout of the picture that you showed of the proposed tower is a little bit different than the ones we have? Yeah.
A printout?
Yeah, do you have that one at all? Is that in the back? No, this picture. I just want to see it closer. Yeah, we have one similar, but ours doesn't have an actual tower in it.
It wasn't in the packet?
Mm-mm, we just have these ones.
It's hard to see. I think it's supposed to be.
It is
It's
there?
here.
No, I'm looking at just the picture.
Oh, I
just the
see, they
picture.
zoomed in, they zoomed in on it. I got it,
Yeah.
We have that.
Okay, that's all I was wondering. Yeah, it must be smaller.
yeah, okay.
Okay. Any other questions too?
I have a couple.
Okay. Thank you for including the LTE map again. That was, we were asking about that last meeting, and that was really helpful. Okay, go ahead, Peter.
One question, on item 8, under conditional use permits, it mentions that pursuant to section 17.68.050 of the ordinance code, use permit may only be granted when the following findings are made. So, in essence, that's the only place I see on here that gives us some guidance if we want to approve this. We would approve it for those findings A through E, is that correct? Most of your reports have, you recommend approval, and then they list the findings, and I didn't see that in this one, so I was just curious if I was understanding properly.
Those are the findings to recommend approval of the project. They're also listed on page 1 and 2 of the staff report
Oh,
under recommendation.
okay, so they're the same, in essence.
Yeah, they're the same.
And I think if I'm understanding the graphic correctly, that it's showing it's 137 feet from the closest property line, which appears to be adjacent to the west. It's on this map here, on the top left, lease area plan. There are some setbacks shown,
Yeah, that's correct.
and the requirement is that it be 110% the height of the tower, which should be a little over 110 feet. So they're in excess of the setback. And their setback is in excess of what it needs to be.
Yes.
Pardon me.
They're set
Said it
further back
backwards.
than they are required
Got
to
it.
be.
I said it backwards. I knew what I
That's
meant.
all right. No problem.
All right, I just wanted to be clear on that before we get into the discussion. I have a feeling that may come up, so thank you.
Any other questions for staff at this time? Okay, so then we'll move on to the public discussion. We'll first start off with those who'd like to speak in favor of the project. Come on up.
Good evening. My name is Stephanie Dowdle. I'm with Epic Wireless. We're representing AT&T. We also have a representative from AT&T here who can talk more about one portion of the project. So what we're proposing here, as you've seen, is a wireless facility. We're proposing this for two reasons. The first primary reason is for the CAF2 project, and my AT&T counterpart will speak more to that. The second reason is, as you've seen in your maps, there's very little wireless coverage in this area. So this project is actually part of the FCC's Connect America Fund, which is bringing high-speed internet to underserved communities. Now, as far as the wireless portion, the cell phone side of this goes, from 2007 to 2014, AT&T saw a 100,000% increase in mobile trafficking on its network. It's not 100%, it's not 1,000%, 100,000%. People are using their cell phones more and more. They're using more data, and they use it for more purposes. So it's incredibly important that we have adequate coverage, especially in some of these more rural areas. In total, national mobile data traffic is estimated to increase sixfold from 2015 to 2020. So this is only going to increase as time goes on. Now, if you look at your coverage maps, like you referenced, the area either has no coverage or some outside coverage. We chose this location because we wanted to give some indoor coverage so people can use their cell phones within their houses, especially in the Heavenly Hills and the Rawhide area, and also be able to use their cell phones while in transit. And that's both for personal use and it's a safety issue. You know, cell phones are being depended upon more and more for contacting public safety officials. We also discussed this site at length, and while we are proposing a lattice tower, because it does blend in somewhat in the foliage, Dan did request that I actually bring in photosims showing what a monopine looks like, so if that's something you're interested in, I know that the public has had some concerns about aesthetics, so hopefully we can allay those concerns with that. Finally, the site was chosen for its location, for its elevation. It's high up, we can cover more. And there's just a lack of nearby towers in that area. So the approval of this project is important for providing this area with wireless coverage and also high-speed internet, which Julie Tone can speak more to. If you have any questions, please.
When you say a monopine, I presume that means one of the tree-like looking?
Yeah, we were asked to bring photo sims of a tree.
I was guessing that. I just wanted to be sure I was right. Thank
My
you.
apologies, I should have clarified. Yeah, it would look like a tree.
Okay. So you're saying that it's not currently proposed as a tree, but you're open to it being proposed as a tree, essentially, is what you're
Yeah,
saying?
we proposed it as a lattice tower. It's easier to maintain, and we thought in this area we might have really good coverage because of the existing trees and the foliage. But like I said, there were some concerns from planning, and so we wanted to work with you guys as much as possible, and we did come in with the tree.
I don't think we ever really talked about the tree and then lattice. It doesn't change how the coverage is. Okay.
If you have a picture
I do.
and could circulate it,
Yeah,
we'd like
that'd
be great.
that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Does
Yeah.
it change your
Please.
maintenance costs or concerns?
It does make it more difficult.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, that's why we typically, lattice towers are a little bit safer for our maintenance workers, and they're also easier to maintain. So,
Thank you.
all right, thank you.
Thank you. Any others who would like to speak in favor?
So Commissioners, good evening. I'm Julie Tone, Director of External Affairs for AT&T California. And I'm honored to be here this evening as you consider this site location for Tuolumne County. So as Stephanie was referring to from Epic Wireless, Connect America Fund is a fund that came out of the Universal Service Fund by the FCC and is focused on providing high-speed broadband internet access to those communities that were deemed by the FCC. They actually did research on census blocks that lacked high-speed broadband access and speeds of less than 10 meg down, 1 meg up. And so AT&T's participated in this program as one of the local exchange carriers to be able to build out high-speed broadband internet access. So the purpose of the site location is to ensure that, and I believe there's a really nice, and you alluded to that earlier on page 23, it provides a nice graphic of the area that will be in receipt of the living units there for the high-speed broadband internet access. And then because we're going to be building a new site build, of course, we want to take advantage of that opportunity to also provide cellular coverage in an area that is very lacking as well. And so as I think it's important that this is really a positive step forward with technology and safety for the community, but I wanted to make comment to make sure that there was knowledge about the high-speed broadband internet access and that the FCC determined the census blocks, and we are required to cover those census blocks determined by the FCC. So I thought that might be helpful information for you, and thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions, Brett? No? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any others who would like to speak in favor?
Good evening. I'm Bruce Bodrow, property owner of the proposed site. I've lived up here all my life. I've raised up here, and I'm not one to see a lot of change, just because of where I was raised. But over the years, obviously, a lot of the technology that has come forth has been a positive thing. Just probably in the last 3 years, I've actually become fluent in the use of a computer and a cell phone. I now have a smartphone, which I never had up till a year ago.
You're a better man than me.
Well, it's been an adjustment, but it does have a lot of good positive things, and I do understand concerns of people, rightfully so. I was not soliciting this. This was approached to me, and initially it was like, well, gosh, I don't know about that. But working for George Reed for years like I have, we've installed or been a part of the installation of these towers, and they do a pretty good job. The tree towers I really like. The most recent one we were involved in was down at Chinese Camp, and it blends in pretty well, even though there's oak trees down there. Most people would look at it and not even know that it's a cell tower. But I think the main thing here is service to people in the community. Where we live out there, we are reliant on HughesNet. It's not cheap. It's not good. there's a lot of drawbacks where AT&T would give you, and give a lot of us out there, services that we can't currently get. The cell service at my house works really pretty well, except on a windy day. Then it cuts in and out. But as soon as you drop down into some of the lower lying areas, forget it. I have quite a few friends that live on Rawhide Road and the Shell Road areas, and they have virtually nothing. So I would ask you to consider that. And I really believe AT&T is sincere and willing to work on the designs to make it compatible with neighbors. So, if you guys choose to allow it to go forward, that's great. If not, I respect that as well. Okay?
May I ask you one question?
Please.
Do you have a personal opinion or do you have a gauge on your neighbors on if they would want a monopine or if they're fine with a lattice tower?
I honestly don't know. I haven't spoken to two that I'm aware of. And if I were in their shoes, I wouldn't want to see a lattice tower.
Sure.
And to be quite frank with you, I'm going to be looking at this tower from my front deck. I'll be looking at Maloney's Lake and a tower just 10 degrees to the right.
Sure.
So a tree-type tower, I would prefer, most definitely.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions, commissioners?
Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any others who would like to speak in favor?
Hey, I'm Elizabeth Boudreau, also owner of the proposed site. I'm in favor of the project. I look at this from the home point of view. I am very conscious of the dangers that we face with open internets and things like that, and I do all of our business from home. And in the middle of that, too, I'm paying an exorbitant amount to be able to do my business in a timely fashion to one company that most of us have to deal with. And so to have that option of a higher speed internet and better packages even for all of our communications, that I think it would be a benefit to a lot of our neighbors, even like us, that struggle to stay on top of that technology and make those payments. It can get away from you sometimes, and we all need it these days. So, thank you. Any questions?
Any other questions? Nope. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Any more who would like to speak in favor? Okay. With that, I will move on to those who would like to speak in opposition.
Good evening. My name is Arthur Schmidt, and could I go back a couple slides on this to the one with the road, that showed the road? There was
Yes.
this is actually Rawhide Road, not
Correct.
French Flat Road,
Right.
which he said it was French Flat. It's not French Flat.
Yeah.
And the picture in your pamphlet that shows with the building in it, that's right there at the school,
Right.
if you guys know where that's at.
Sure.
All right. So then could we go back to the plot map, if we could? Just so you guys understand, I'm in this spot right here. This whole long section, that's my property. And this is where it's proposed.
Can you finish up at the mic for everyone who's on?
Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that.
So, a few questions I have is, in the, like which was mentioned earlier, on the setbacks, as the way I read it and look at it, the setback on the one side, on the inside line, which would be to the left, what is that setback? Because per the map, it doesn't show 100 and some feet.
Yeah. It does show, I think it does show, as Peter showed, on the top left, if you pull out your longer map, on the top left.
Because it would, if it was 100 and some feet inside of this line right here,
Yes.
it would be way over into here. Is that where it's at?
Yes,
Is that
so
where
if you look at that, pull out your longer map.
This one?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you got a small one.
Yeah, you have a
You
small.
want to look at a larger one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you look in that top left picture, there is a little line that shows 137 from the setback to that first line of the
From the
tower.
closest point.
Yeah, from the closest point of the tower to the property.
Okay,
It's small on there, but it is there.
right.
Couldn't read it.
And
Yeah.
so, the setback should be 110% of the height, correct? Okay. So from my property line back, what is the setback?
It's going to be significantly more.
Okay,
Oh, yeah, because you're at the top, so yeah, that'll be,
Huge.
okay,
It's probably going to be over 250 feet, I assume.
okay.
It's not written on here, but-
I guess, yeah, because I think we're looking at
Based
it in
on scale.
reference to this. So he's in this skinny property, so he's
Yeah.
asking setback from the top. So,
Yeah, so it's, I mean, we don't have it listed on here, but it's going to be over 250 feet.
okay.
Okay. All right, so then if you go back to aesthetics and the actual spot on
Sure.
the property, with this map, it shows all these round circles, and those are supposed to be trees, is that correct?
Yes, typically that is correct, right? The,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that is correct.
So what is right, if you're looking from my view on that map, do you see trees at all, or is there there's nothing blocking the view, correct?
sure, not in this lease plan or area plan, does not look like as many, but we can't tell. It looks like there is one in the bigger picture, there is a tree towards the top left, but
So there's no, in the findings, it said there was going to be existing bull pines that surround the thing, to block the view from other property owners. And it, obviously on that map, it shows there
Sure.
won't be.
okay.
Is that correct?
This map actually doesn't display all the different pines on the
That's what I
property.
thought.
It's really just
Not to
displaying.
scale.
Well, I
The
can,
tree part is not to scale. It's
Yeah.
not to scale.
yeah,
There's a lot
but
more
if you
trees.
do look at if you were looking for my property, there's no trees. And I'm just showing it, it shows that on that map
Okay.
also.
All right.
If you were to walk out there, you would see a picture from my property, there's no trees there.
Sure.
Right,
Yeah.
looking from my direction into where this is gonna be.
Sure.
Would you like
There's
to
no
see a
trees.
monopine that looks like a tree?
Does Epic
I mean,
Wireless,
that-
do you guys want to share those pictures, or is that just for the commissioners? Okay. So these are available for you to look at as well, for the monopine,
Monopine looks like a tree.
yeah. So rather than the lattice tower, it'd be
Yeah.
monopine.
Would that work for you better?
Well, no. Who wants a tower
Sure.
on their, next to their property when they have great cell service anyway? That's the other thing, is that my cell service is great where I'm at, but not everybody's in my situation, obviously. Some of the other concerns I had is, in the write-up, there was no landscaping plan, but there's a required landscaping plan. So why wasn't there a landscaping plan submitted?
Yeah, that would be, staff, do we have a landscaping plan? It seems to have, we have a description of the bottom of the tower and the facility, but
Yes.
Is that all we need?
The site has shrubs.
For projects such as this that are in a area that's pretty
Remote?
remote. and rural?
densely forested, I guess, we don't typically require a landscaping plan, because we wouldn't want to require any kind of irrigation towards those plants.
Sure.
I did conduct a site inspection, and it seemed that kind of throughout the project site, there was a good amount of vegetation. I'm not positive, but I believe this picture here on the right is looking towards your property.
No.
I'm not positive about that, but,
No. No.
okay.
I'm going to ask you to maybe one more comment, and then we'll move on to the next person, because it did
Okay.
look like there was another comment for
I
opposition.
just want to read, in here it states that A landscaping and maintenance plan shall be submitted with the application for use permit indicating the existing vegetation, identifying landscaping remain on the site. Additional vegetation may be needed. Screen the facility from adjacent land uses and public views.
Sure.
With a method of watering and a program for maintenance on the landscaping. So I would want to see a landscaping plan with that so that I wouldn't have to look at the compound or look at the tower from my view, which you can obviously see that there is no trees between us.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, they were good. Sure. Thank you. I think we have a question
Quincy,
for staff, appreciate it.
can we clarify why there was not a landscaping plan? I know you've answered it, but it's,
Sure. So as Dan said, when there is enough, in the view of CRA staff, native vegetation on a project site, we typically don't require an additional landscaping plan. However, your commission could require a specific landscaping plan be submitted at the time of the building permit to verify that either existing vegetation is shown on a map and/or that additional vegetation is proposed. Could add a condition.
the challenge, it would seem to me, in doing that would be, one, water, because there needs to be water there. The second is something to hide a 103-foot tall.
No, he wants to hide
Just the facility.
buildings.
Oh, the building.
Not
The
was-
compound, yeah, obviously, I understand you're not going to hide, I would not prefer to see it at all, but if it's going to go through, I don't want to look at a compound right from my back, because I'm the closest resident to that compound.
Right.
Understood.
I mean,
Okay. Thank you
his
for
resident.
Thank you for clarifying.
Thank you.
Okay, could I have one more question about lighting on here? It stated that there will be no lighting involved with this compound, except for when it's, somebody's there. Is it required lighting for any kind of aircraft or anything like that?
Yes, that
Yeah.
doesn't speak to that. That just speaks to the lights low. On a tower this height, there is
Right.
I think red blinking light. It pulses very slowly on and off for an aircraft.
For above?
But you'd never even, it's
So there will be light always on this tower all the time?
only at the very top.
Only at the very top? Okay, because it states that there won't be.
That's at the bottom where there's not going to be.
Well, it said on the tower at all on here. No lighting on the tower at all.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Yeah, before we go to the next opposition, this is open to the public to look at, the monopine, if you are interested. So we'll move on to, it looks like another person in opposition. Oh, we're going to do server rebuttal type of thing? Yeah. Maybe. Okay.
My name is Dante Pirano. I'm an old timer too. Been here 4 generations. I've got to give you a little background. This property was never created as a parcel map. This is a subdivision, and this is called Heavenly Hills Subdivision. And Heavenly Hills Subdivision was originally 213 acres that we divided into 8 different parcels. And Dante Drive is me. I own the property next door. I have 46 acres next door. Now, I don't want a cell tower in my backyard.
Which direction? To the west?
If you put the map
Need
up,
the
I'll show
map.
it. This is my property.
Got it.
Okay.
And this was the project to begin with. So when we did the project, we made it subject to what's called CC&Rs. And every single person, before they built their home or bought their home or bought their property, had to accept the declaration, which was our CC&Rs. And our CC&Rs specifically prohibit this use. And I've tried to be as gentle as I can because I don't want to cause a bunch of liability for the applicants. I mean, I built their house, So I'm trying to just say, this has got to stop. Because if it doesn't stop, then I have to refer to it saying that you cannot have a commercial use, you cannot lease a portion of the property, you have to lease all the property. And the most important thing is that the very last paragraph says that if I have to come in and enforce these CCNRs, that everyone is liable for the costs and attorney's fees and everything for the litigation. And I don't want to do that to these folks. But I don't want this cell tower in my backyard because it's right up on my property line, and I've heard some bad things about cell towers and things like that. So my attorney has prepared a cease and desist that I'd like to respectively submit along with the CCNRs, which I've provided to David before, explaining to him. I mean, I had to come all the way in to state what I've already put in writing and sent certified and tried everything in my power to be reasonable and not have to get an attorney involved. But I guess we're at that point now, and so what I'm saying is I'm objecting to it. And every owner, and I even asked the folks that applied, did you receive a copy of your CCNRs before you bought your property? And she said yes. So they're well aware that this is not prohibited in Heavenly Hills subdivision. So here's a copy of the CCNRs, and here's a copy of the letter from my attorney. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Peter, do you know anything about legalities of CCNRs and are questionable?
I would not feel comfortable giving legal advice. I think I know the answer, but
Staff, do you
that's not
feel-
my license.
Well, we got to ask, why not? I mean, it's their responsibility whether to do it or not.
Well, I understand, but that's a legal matter. From standpoint, were you guys aware of the CCNRs?
So typically, typically and always actually, the Tuolumne County does not enforce, does not inform on, and does not
Thank you.
take part in homeowners meeting the requirements of their CCNRs. It's a civil matter outside of the jurisdiction, essentially, of our entitlement process. Certainly, we've had projects, building permits, other discretionary entitlements that have come through before that do go through where we're not aware of the conflict between those two, between a CCNR and our county ordinance code. And it has, if they come to the county and make us aware of the situation, it's not something that our county council is involved with, and it's handled as a private matter between the homeowners association and a resident. The findings that are before you tonight don't take into consideration, just so you guys, I want to make sure you're real clear that they don't take into consideration whether a project is compliant with the CCNRs of subdivision. They only are holding the project to the guidelines of our ordinance code. That's all I really
So
think I could say.
we could conclude that it could be completely compliant with the code,
Right.
yet still be out of line with the CCNRs.
Absolutely.
Okay,
That's right.
just to clarify.
Absolutely.
That's exactly right.
Thank you.
Speaking in opposition.
Yes, I'm Raul Vaughn. I live at 8228 Dante Drive. Unfortunately, I didn't receive a copy of all this information. I kind of found out through the grapevine, and I scrambled here in the last couple hours to put together some comments, and so I haven't submitted them in advance. So I'm a little unprepared, but I'd like to read it. It'll take about 3 minutes at most. First, I'd like to thank Bruce for the manner in which he addressed your board. I really appreciate that, and Bruce, I'd like to talk with you and about my concerns about the project. And Dante, you're absolutely right on your comments, and I'll read my statement. So, in the past, people used to think that cigarettes were safe, and they used to think that lead in paint was safe, and they used to think that asbestos was safe. And today, people think cell phones and cell phone radiation and cell phone towers are safe. And so why do they think that? Well, because the wireless companies tell you it's safe. And they go out and they fund flawed studies, and they take their results and they hire PR firms, and they go out and push it in the media, telling everybody that it's safe. But I'll tell you, I worked for over 12 years for Front Porch, which is a local company you guys might know about. We created a lot of innovative technologies for the industry. We even sold some to AT&T. And so some of our biggest customers were the biggest cell phone companies in the world, not just here in the US, but all over the world, China, Malaysia, Philippines. I sold to all these companies, so I know this industry. And here's what we know to be true. So I want to talk to you about what we know to be true about the health risks, and then what we think might be true, but we're not sure. So I'll separate it. I have studies here which I'll pass out to you, so you guys can follow up.
I have a point of order. Excuse me.
Yep.
I applaud your reason to speak, but this is a planning commission, and we're here to talk about a project and zoning and compliance. We're not here to.
He's allowed, I'm watching his time,
Yeah,
and he's allowed his
Can we
time.
just step away for a
No,
second?
but I'm just saying.
Sure, but he's allowed to have his comments, and
Yeah,
I'll
let
make
me
sure he's
finish
in
it,
his.
And you can mention whatever
That's
you
okay.
like. Sorry.
No, you're okay. I am
I'm a
watching
little
your time. so
frustrated
you're
there.
good.
So this is not my opinion, but I'll give you the studies. Here's what we know. Cellular radiation kills your sperm cells. So I could cite a couple of these studies, but I won't go into all of this DNA fragmentation and death of sperm cells and sperm cell motility. I won't go into all of that. All I'll tell you is if you're saving up for like a tubal ligation surgery and you're wondering how to afford it, well, you can save your money and take your cell phone, put it right in your pocket, go stand under a cell tower, save all your money. You'll just take care of that right there. So that's what we know. Now here's what we might know.
You have 30 seconds to go.
Here's what we might know. Cellular radiation may retard brain development. It may cause neurodegenerative diseases. I'll give you the studies. And it's even worse for children. Why? Because children absorb 10 times more cellular radiation than adults do. Why? Because their skulls are not as thick and their brain material is more absorbent. And right there by this tower, we've got a couple of hundred kids, including preschool kids, at Sierra Waldorf. It's not shown on your map. It should have been. That's false advertisement right there. Should have said, we're covering these kids. Now, I talked to the school administrators. They don't know about this project. You want 200 angry parents coming to you guys if you approve this who don't know about it? They
And
don't
I'm
even
gonna
allow.
Thank you for your time. That was
Dante
over
is
3 minutes, so
great.
I'm going to go ahead and thank
Dante
you very
is
much for your
absolutely
comment.
right. The proper thing to do would be to modify the CC&Rs first and then approach the board. I'm happy to discuss how to do this with Bruce
Sure.
and
Thank
our
you.
neighbors. And I'd like you to be aware
Appreciate
that that is, as Dante said, that's a lawsuit waiting to be happened. Finally, there is coverage.
I'm going to have to wrap you up. Thank you very much.
There is coverage in that area.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Okay. Do we have any others who would like to speak in opposition? Okay. Then I'll move on to neutral. Did you want to come back up? All right. Thank you for your understanding on letting him finish his comments.
Well, I took some of his time, and I apologize for that, but this is a planning commission meeting, and you need to stick to what's on the agenda.
Sure.
And so that's an issue for another time or another board, and I need to hold you responsible to what's on the agenda and sticking to the topics at
Sure.
hand. But I did like his last comment where perhaps they should go back and discuss their CC&Rs.
Sure.
And I found this report very confusing to read for me. And I thought the Connect America Fund, that could have been mentioned in here because that's really important because it is a priority of the Board of Supervisors in our county to get broadband connection here. But I'm going to ask you, I don't care one way or the other, I don't live there. But I think maybe there's some issues that maybe could take place and be discussed between everybody outside this forum, and maybe you could table this and allow them to come back. And I kind of agree with Arthur where it said that there's supposed to be a landscape plan submitted. So the rules need to be fair for everybody. So either we adhere to the rules or we don't. And then I'll just let my comments stay at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others who would like to speak neutrally?
Yes, hello, Sandy Fairgrieve again. Yeah, I'm.
Can you
all-
point the mic a little bit up towards you? There you go.
There, sorry,
Yeah.
I'm
Much
kind
better.
of tall.
Thank you.
Where was I? Yeah, I mean, I'm all in favor for more cellular coverage. I think almost all of us have a smartphone. Those that don't are probably moving in that direction, but it sounds like, you know, it's just part of life these days. And yes, this is a part of the country where coverage is not very good, in my opinion. However, I'm kind of wondering, does this mean, well, if I want a cell phone, I got to have AT&T? I mean, what about Sprint and T-Mobile and all the other guys?
So we can actually answer that. We've been through this issue a couple times. They can build a tower and then lease it out to other coverage or other service providers. So it is, once a tower's up, it can be leased out for other providers.
Of course, but you could make the cost prohibitive, and the other guys will just say,
Sure,
"There's
but
no way
that's-
we're
we're
paying
not
you that
business
money."
plan model,
It's
so-
No, actually, they can't.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So, you know, I'm also wondering, you know, people are talking about, well, you know, there's a school nearby. I guess AT&T probably have a tower up on Gibbs Road as well. I mean, it's only about 4 miles away. So what does this actually add? I mean,
If
just-
you go to the agenda package, it's in the back.
It shows
As a
what-
reminder, there is an LTE coverage map that shows the additional and what's missing currently. Yeah.
Okay, so
that-
I can
Yeah,
see
you can definitely
exactly.
see what is adding and what's not there currently.
Right, and I guess that can all be achieved. This is the most cost-effective way, as opposed to, well, let's just transmit a little more power out of Gibbs Drive.
I don't know if that's how it works.
Doesn't work
No.
that way.
Yeah, that's out of our.
It's not out of my league, but I can tell you it doesn't work.
Well, I beg to differ. I mean, I'm an engineer. You transmit more power, you get more range.
The limiting factor is the handheld, the cell phone itself. It has only a couple hundred milliwatts, so you end up with what's called an alligator in this business, where the tower is transmitting a lot of signal but can't hear anything.
Yes, I'll grant you that.
Okay.
They transmit back. So it depends, I guess, if you're spending all your time just downloading or uploading.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Any others who would like to speak neutrally? Okay, there is those in favor and those in opposition, so we can do rebuttals. Or rebuttal, excuse me. We'll start with rebuttal. So those who already spoke in favor can speak on anything that was talked about while in opposition, and that's limited to that. So is there any rebuttals?
So Commissioners, again, Julie Tone, Director of AT&T External Affairs, California. So I want to just touch on a few things that were mentioned here. And again, just make sure that everybody understands the purpose for the expansion of our infrastructure is to support high-speed broadband internet. For those living units and parents and students and children in those living units that have a need for high-speed broadband for various things, whether you're conducting your personal business from your home business, whether it's students that need to have high-speed broadband for educational purposes, for collaboration, for research, et cetera, from their homes. We have had a lot of requests from constituents in this county regarding high-speed broadband, and second of all, cellular coverage in many areas due to just public safety concerns. And so AT&T has picked this site location because this site and the census blocks around this area were deemed to lack high-speed broadband by the FCC in speeds less than 10 megs down and 1 meg up. Also to health and safety, we do meet all of the FCC required standards for health and safety. And also, too, due to topography, environment, and terrain, where we choose to address your question about site location, moving a tower even 100 feet can impact greatly our coverage areas that we have. And so the power isn't the restriction, it's the coverage area due to terrain and topography. So I just wanted to remind everybody, there are many different types of design criteria that come into play for AT&T to choose a site location. Our engineers do an amazing job to make sure we are providing the most amount of coverage for both high-speed broadband internet coverage first and the cellular coverage second of all. And again, to your point, Commissioner, it is a co-locatable tower for 3 carriers. We have tariff rates that were mandated, to your point, Commissioner, that we have to adhere to for pricing, et cetera. And so I wanted to also share that with everybody and the commissioners and those of you in the audience. And so thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak at this time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other rebuttals? Sure.
Hi, I just wanted to address some of the issues that members of the audience,
Excuse me.
sorry, and some of the members of the community brought up. You know, AT&T likes to work with our communities, and we work closely with our planners. We really want to make something that looks great in the community and provides a really important service, so it's great to hear from other people. As far as the landscaping goes, you know, that is something we talked about in other sites in this area, or in this county. We do it. In this case, we're on top of a hill. We're not near any water sources. The irrigation alone would be incredibly difficult. And for most, you can't see it from any public roads. So we made the determination that in this case, because of the coverage that already exists, you know, it just wasn't necessary. As far as lighting on top goes, we actually have already met with the airport commission. And we're not required to do lighting on top. That's not why we're not presenting it. As well as if you were to go with the monopine, we don't typically do lighting on that because it looks like a Christmas tree.
So there is no lighting on top either.
We're not showing lighting, and I don't believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that it wasn't required. We're not near.
Right.
Yeah, we're just not near
Maybe.
the airports. And again, Dan can correct me if I'm wrong, but that is what I recall. As far as CCNRs go, that is a civil issue that's outside of planning, and that's something, you know, we've been working on separately. So we can address that privately with the residents, but it's really outside of this. And it is something we work with all the time on. It's not uncommon. I know people are concerned about health issues. We're actually, AT&T is very, very heavily regulated by the FCC. In this case, we were required to do a third-party report where we actually looked at the radio frequency waves, and it was found that we were within 1.3625% of what the FCC allows. So we're well, well below. These antennas are very, very high up, you know, and these are non-ionizing waves. So, and the American Cancer Society as well as the World Health Organization have both said that there's little to no evidence that supports that there are health risks of towers of this height and in these locations. As was addressed, our towers are co-locatable. You know, most counties require that. We try to build them that way. We go on other wireless facilities, they come on ours. So it's pretty common, and it's something that's generally very encouraged. So I'm here to answer any questions you might have.
Any other questions, commissioners? No, thank you.
All right, thank
very
you.
much. Any other rebuttals? Not yet. I think you're a sir rebuttal. So I think we're going to do one more, see if anyone else has a rebuttal. And remember, it's only to those things that were spoke in opposition, but you're more than welcome to. Yes. Just reminding of the rules. Yeah.
Okay, again, I'm Bruce Bodrow, and I just wanted to kind of clarify for the board kind of a general location of where the tower will be adjacent to the property line. This being us here, and it was brought up by my neighbor, that this being him, I wanted to assure him that the tower is going to be over here, approximately 250 feet from my southeast corner into the property, which would be well over 800 feet to his piece of property. Now, there's another gentleman here. Another gentleman here, Mr. Dante. Now, the tower is closer to his property. It is within like 130 feet of the western edge. So we're one parcel roughly 800 feet, the other 130. And I've kind of put my faith in AT&T to do the homework for me with the county on the CCNRs. Okay? Thank you.
Any last rebuttals? Yeah, only limited as people who spoke, so I apologize, ma'am. Yeah, so now we can go to Sir rebuttal, and you can only speak to the things that were spoken about in rebuttal. So even more limited. Yeah.
I know.
Thank you.
I have a hard time keeping it.
Yeah.
Still, you look at the placement on that map and where it's going to be, it's not where it's mentioned. It's more right here, right there is where it's going to be. I
Yeah, on
mean,
this site
if you
plan.
put the map on top of each other, that's where it comes out. And also, there's a residence on this property, correct? So there's a well, there's a septic. They have,
Sure.
there's ways to get water to the landscaping, so.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess this is for our staff. Thank you, sir. Compared to the house, who probably does have a well out there, what is the topography towards the top? Is it more where the tower is going to be? Is it up higher the hill? That's what I assume, because it does look like from this picture, the site map, based on the picture that you gave, it looks like it's a little bit lower.
Sorry, you were referencing from their house?
Yeah, so the tower is up higher on a hill?
Okay.
Is that correct?
I believe we actually have a photo simulation of that, of looking from the house, from the driveway.
I guess all the question is the tower up higher a hill than from the house?
It's significantly
Okay,
higher.
thank you.
You always put
Yeah, so you're pumping water uphill
always put
from the
towers
well.
on the
That's
top
already
side.
there. That's all I wanted to know. Yeah, and do we have one more sir rebuttal from those who spoke before? Thank you, sir. And again, it's just to those comments that were in the rebuttal.
I know. Hey, listen, I don't like to build cases, I like to build bridges.
Sure.
The problem I have is everybody's discounting these CCNRs. Whenever we buy a property for ourselves, it's subject to certain rules that we all depend on, and that's the reason we buy that property. So if the property says no mobile homes allowed, we can feel comfortable that the person next door isn't going to put a mobile home in. So I would just like your assurance that everyone in the board will please read the CCNRs and please read the letter from my attorney, which does mention the county as well, just so I can feel comfortable that you're fully aware of what I'm saying.
Sure. Did you have a comment? It just sounds like we, as a planning commission, do not concern with CCNRs as it is sounds like a private matter.
In my comments, I will.
And we can't really make comments on the CCNR, correct? It sounds like it's a private matter.
Yeah, it's not in any way discounting
What it
the
is.
the
Yeah.
CCNRs or the importance of CCRs
Right.
in the development process at all.
Right.
It's not within your jurisdiction to make decisions based on the CCRs. You're really limited to making decisions based on the Tuolumne County Ordinance
Right.
Code, but it does not discount the importance of CCNRs in the process or a homeowner's civil responsibility to meet that.
So it sounds like if once we make a recommendation from our case of a board, depending on how you feel about the outcome, it sounds like it's something that you'll have to take up with your attorney and go from there.
Right. And I just mentioned that, can I be assured that you'll at least read the information that I brought?
Personally, I don't see why we would, sir. I respect your opinion, I respect what you're trying to do, but I think it's been stated quite clearly by staff that we have no jurisdiction and no authority. So while I'm in the business of development and I read CCNRs all the time, I'm not sure what that would change. It wouldn't change what we have to base our decision on. It doesn't change what you have to do as an individual.
I know, I'm just trying to avoid it at all.
Sure.
I understand,
I appreciate
but we don't have the ability to get you there.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you.
I'll have to.
Okay.
Just to be crystal clear, the recommendation that's on page 1 and on page 2 is really what the commission is obligated to evaluate a project under these are the findings in our ordinance code for a commission to make a determination on a project.
Okay, thank you. Looks like we have one more rebuttal. Just reminder, only on what was rebuttal.
Regarding coverage, I know that Conifer has high-speed data out of Fowler that covers some of this area, and I may be wrong on this spot, but I thought Hub 3 had a tower as well opposite that would cover the valley. So I think we do have high-speed data.
I don't have that information.
Yeah, I don't think we have that data, and maybe there are different providers. So he might be I know Conifer is a WISP, which is wireless internet service. So that's completely different than data for a cell phone.
And in addition, AT&T does have a data product that people could buy if they do have a cell phone.
Correct.
They could buy the data product through AT&T and use it on their home computers as well.
Right.
So I think there is coverage. And I don't think this LTE map is accurate compared with if you actually walked the area or drove the area and seen what your coverage was. So I really wonder how many houses this actually covers.
Sure.
And I think it's a legitimate concern.
Yeah, definitely. One note is my parents actually did have one of those AT&T additional boxes, but it is an additional cost. So they just put in a tower by their house, and now they don't have to pay for that extra cost. So I do know a little bit about that. Yeah. I think that was all the rebuttals because we only had 3 against. So with that, we will now close the public portion on this agenda item. And now it comes back to commission. We have some probably things to address, a couple it sounds like.
I will, go ahead. I live in Pine Mountain Lake, which is a HOA with 3,700 home sites. And a monopine antenna was installed in the middle of the golf course. And there was quite a bit of consternation on the part of a few people, but the bottom line was, from our point of view, and we had CCNRs that precluded that, and those were dealt with outside of a court action, and the tower was built, and the coverage in a great deal of Pine Mountain Lake significantly improved as a result of that. I fear that, RF coverage or cell coverage is sort of a rising tide, and you're just not going to stop it. It's too many people want the service. Too many people want to be able to play Candy Crush on their smartphones. So they're going to want that kind of stuff. And I worked in the world of RF and microwave engineering for 33 years. And frankly, the comment that was made over here, which is I think very important, which was RF is non-ionizing radiation. And we had many of these discussions, and I'm comfortable. I believe if there really was a serious threat to that side of it, it would have been discovered by now because of the proliferation of all these towers. The energy levels would have been enough to have caused it. I personally think the way we handle, we make a 29th condition to make it be a monopine tower, even though I accept that it's a little harder to work on, but I think that's the one thing we could do.
Okay, thank you. And is that if we did make that would be the correct recommendation, and it would be a condition 29, correct, just to staff, make sure?
And they could submit those plans with their building permit.
Okay. Go ahead.
Couple things. First off, I agree on the monopine. Am I getting that right? The fake pine tree. I think that's a reasonable compromise that the woman from Epic said they're willing to do that. I think that's something that just needs to be done here. So if that's condition 29, so be it. As we've stated already, I mean, our job is very specific as the Planning Commission. We're supposed to look at what the ordinance code says we're supposed to concur or disagree with staff on. CCNRs are a very valuable document. They're a legal document. You have every right to pursue that, but that's not the province of this commission. So I think 2 things can be equally true here. We can approve this if we wish to, and you can still pursue your CCNR issue, and whether or not you can work that out, that's a different question. That's outside of us. Might have an approval he never builds. I don't know. but that's not something that we have the province to look into. So at this point, you know, I personally think we can move forward with this, but I'm interested to see if any other commissioners have any comments.
Is there any other comments? Question is, the landscape plan, should we even address that? Is it actually specifically written, I can't find it this second, in the conditions that there be a landscape plan? Because if there's not, and we're not going to actually need it, do we actually need to actually have that specifically said? So maybe can you address the landscape plan real quick?
Sure.
Which one is it, condition?
It's page 7.
Yeah, it's in there.
There it is. Thank you.
So as we said, and Dan mentioned, that typically, which doesn't have to mean always, when there's existing native vegetation on a site that provides screening for a compound, for various reasons that have been mentioned, we don't require additional landscaping. And this is common on many types of entitlements that we process at the county. Commercial projects, residential projects, subdivisions, we typically allow in our ordinance code existing vegetation to be used towards a 20% landscaping requirement or something like that. So it's not out of character to proceed down the path to allow native vegetation to be counted towards landscaping. However, the commission could either add a condition specifying that a landscaping plan be submitted with the building permit. They could specify that that landscaping plan needs to show topography and a more thorough review of native vegetation on the project site to allow staff to determine, to confirm basically what was observed during the site visit, which was that there was enough vegetation out there to block it. So there's a couple ways that you could go. You could go with how we typically do things, or a condition can be added to require a plan at the time of the building permit.
Thank you. So any other questions, comments, commissioners?
I would like to agree with the monopine, first of all. I think that's far more appealing. I would also like to see AT&T work with the neighbors with regard to the landscaping. If indeed we go forward and approve this project, I think the neighbors need to be placated. I would like AT&T to discuss that issue with those that are opposed so that it's shielded as best we can.
Which sounds like staff said it is a little bit, but that is, again,
Yes.
you're just requesting. But
Yes.
That's not in
yeah.
our recommendation.
No, not necessarily, but it certainly is more appealing than angry neighbors.
May I ask for a clarification, Charlotte?
Yes, so are you
Are you referring to just the building?
The
Or
compound.
the entire property that's going to be disturbed?
The compound.
Okay, just trying to make sure I understand. How tall is that?
16 feet or something. Yeah,
Okay.
15. Any other questions, comments? Does anyone want to make a motion? Attempt to make a motion?
Well, it's not very hard.
It's not.
Not like that last one.
Yeah.
Too many crickets. I'd like to make a motion to approve the conditional use permit CUP 17-005 conditions 1 through 28 with the additional item 29 that the tower be a monopine tower.
And that's
I think A through.
consistent with findings A through E?
Yeah.
Yeah, what he said.
All right, do we have a second?
Yes.
And then all those in favor?
Well, I have a question.
Oh.
Does your motion include the landscaping or not?
No, it does not.
Does the second concur?
Did you concur that did not include a landscape plan around it? There's not a condition 30.
There's not a condition.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
We all need to be on the same motion here.
Yes. It's a good question.
Well,
Do you still go with your second motion?
perhaps I'll withdraw.
Okay, does someone want to make a
Then
second?
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, so, and then all those opposed?
Aye.
So then we have 4 yes and 1 no. It does approve. And with that, the meeting is over. Thank you for coming. Thank you for the lot of discussion, and thank you.